from the News Channel 5 network. This is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Lehman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Tuesday night on News Channel 5 Plus. We're going to have a special show for you tonight. Last night I had the pleasure to go to the national premiere of the movie My Many Sons, which is the story of legendary Lipscomb basketball coach Don Meyer. It's a really inspirational tale about a great man, a great coach, a great mentor and father figure to so many people who played for him. 923 wins over the course of his career. At the time when he hit that mark, he was the winningest coach in college basketball history, since passed by Coach K, but way up there in the all-time rankings. And the amount of people he impacted as a coach probably far surpasses that when you consider all the guys who went through his programs, when you consider all the young boys who went to his basketball camps, and the people he impacted on campus and the community as well. So we're going to talk all about My Many Sons coming up tonight with the producers of that film, talk about the premiere last night as well. But first, want to get you up to date on a few things in the sports world today. The Titans off. They get back to work tomorrow ahead of another road trip down to Miami coming up on Sunday. You can watch that game on News Channel 5, kickoff just afternoon. Once again, the Titans so close in these first 4 games, yet 1-3. They believe there's been some definite progress. All these games, single-digit affairs. The last couple games came down to the final possession. They just weren't quite able to get over the hump, but they believe there's enough progress to believe that if they just clean a couple things up, that they will be able to get over the hump. One team that has no problem getting over the hump right now is the Tennessee Volunteers. They have gotten down, they have come back. That's been the recipe. But now this week, Tennessee is in a bit of an unfamiliar spot. Still the national stage, a huge game. But they're the underdogs heading to College Station against number 8 Texas A&M. Vols 5-0, A&M unbeaten as well. That game also on News Channel 5 Saturday afternoon at 2:30. If Tennessee can win that, they are in really good shape. Of course, Alabama comes to Knoxville the next weekend as this gauntlet comes to a close for Tennessee. But here's the thing. If you looked at the Vols at the beginning of the year and you looked at this stretch, Florida, at Georgia, at Texas A&M, Alabama, number 1 team in the country at home, I think anyone would think if they can just split, that would be a great stretch. Well, now the Vols have won the first 2 games there. And so I think they've raised expectations internally. I think they've raised expectations for the fans from the already very inflated expectations that started the year to see if they can do better than that. And when you look at the SEC East, now that they've beaten Florida, now that they've beaten Georgia, if you steal one of these games, you're almost locking up the SEC East title right now, which says something for just how well they played early on in the year. Vanderbilt's another team that's had a lot of tough ball games, close ball games. Some of them they've been able to come out, like the overtime win at Western Kentucky a couple of weeks ago. Others they haven't been able to come up with the big play. South Carolina in the opener, Florida this past weekend. Unfortunately for Derek Mason and the Commodores, they're now 0-2 in SEC play. But as you'll hear tonight on the news from Derek Mason, he says, look, we've been right there in both of those games. We know we can compete with anybody in this conference. We know we can compete with anybody in the country. It just comes down to when you're in position to make a play, make a catch, get a sack, make a tackle. You've got to make it. And if we start to do that, we're going to have a chance to win some of these ball games coming down the stretch. Hockey, preseason exhibition game for the Predators tonight against the Blue Jackets. The big news there, Pekka Rinne back from the World Cup of Hockey and between the pipes tonight for the Predators for the first time this season. Pekka struggled at times last year, coming off some of the injuries of the past couple of years, but he was great in the playoffs. The Preds hope he can find that form and have it for the entire year this year as they look to make a run deeper into the playoffs after getting to Game 7 of Round 2 last season. A lot of people think this could be the best team in the Western Conference this year. So they're hoping Pekka Rinne can certainly stand tall like he has so many times in the past for them. And finally, baseball playoffs getting underway this week. We'll certainly talk about that over the next couple weeks here. Get your picks to win in baseball as well. But again, the big story tonight on this program, we're going to talk the movie My Many Sons, the Nashville premiere last night on the campus of Lipscomb, where Don Meyer made so many memories and won so many games and had so many fans. And last night they came out in full force. And so tonight we welcome in the producers of that movie. To my left immediately, good friend Casey Bond, and then Brad Wilson as well. Guys, thanks so much. Congratulations on the big night last night.
Thank you, man. Thanks for being there and supporting us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I want to start with the premiere last night because it was a great crowd. It seemed like the movie was well received. Applause at the end when I got up to come back here and do the show at the end of the night last night. What was that moment like? You guys are used to this business. You've been to things like this before, but this project, which I know is so near and dear to both of your hearts, to be able to do it on the campus of Lipscomb where he had such a great career, what did that mean?
I mean, it was really, I went to Lipscomb and I remember being on the show, gosh, it might have been a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and we were talking about it and we're like, yeah, we're going to be on the show and talk about the movie when it comes out, and here we are. And we finally got to have that big premiere last night, and it was really exciting, just really wanting to honor Coach and his legacy, and to do it in the place where he created much of that legacy was really special.
It was, yeah. And like I said, we go through this sometime, but there was something different about this, and I think it was certainly because of Coach, because we got to know him and he believed in us enough to give us the permission to do his film. So there's just an extra bit of emotion in the evening for us.
I want to talk at some point tonight about your conversations with Coach Meyer to get the okay to do this, but just from the very fundamental aspect of a lot of times in film, we're dealing with fictional stories or stories where the audience doesn't necessarily know the cast going into it. This is a very true story about a very real man that I think everybody there last night knew and most people in Nashville know. How did that make this project different?
Doing a true life story always makes it, I think, even a little more difficult, because a lot of people are going to go see this movie who knew Coach Meyer, who knew these players, and of course they kind of have a preconceived idea of what they might see. And so again, to be able to have that premiere last night and really get a round of applause afterwards, and some of them were players, some of them were people who spent 20 some odd years of their careers at Lipscomb with them, that was sort of a sign of affirmation, I think, for us, that we did the story some justice. So
yeah, and you go to the set every day and you know this great man, you know about him, and so you don't want to Hollywood it up. You want to be as true to life as you possibly can be, and respect him and respect his memory and his great position that he had in life. So they were very conscious of that every day.
And as you look at this movie, a big chunk of it is set in Nashville on Lipscomb's campus. Then the other part, obviously, people know that he spent the last portion of his career at Northern State in Aberdeen, South Dakota. As you went through that process, so many people probably saw you on campus, probably saw you filming and doing those sorts of things. How did that, I guess, add to the challenge of having people literally kind of walking onto your set some days who knew all about this?
Well, sometimes it's great and sometimes it is a little more difficult, but I think in this instance we basically gathered a lot of stories from people, and I think one of the biggest challenges actually of this story was, what do we pick and choose to show? There were so many people he impacted, so many incredible stories, so we kind of had to figure out what were we going to tell, what was really his message, and how are we going to move that forward with the script and eventually the movie. But I thought it was great having people there,
Oh,
you know,
it was
to see it
terrific,
happen.
yeah.
And
We used a lot of them. And one little tidbit of information, you know, if you saw the movie, we do some scenes in Coach's office. That really was Coach's office. And that couple of days, they were supposed to demo that office a couple of days before we started shooting. So the director said, could you please just wait, and so they waited, and we went to the set the next day, and it was completely flattened.
Oh, wow.
Totally flattened. So that's the memory of Coach's office. We got it on film.
we did.
Yeah.
That's it. I was actually sitting next to Lipscomb basketball coach, the current one, Casey Alexander, last night, and asked him, I was like, your office look anything like that? And it's changed a little bit, and a big part of that is because of Don Meyer. And of course, that's part of the story, too, the impact that he had, that they eventually went on to Division I. Our guest tonight, Casey Bond, Brad Wilson. They are the producers of the movie My Many Sons, the story, the inspiring true story of the coach Don Meyer, legendary basketball coach at Lipscomb. Our phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number. If you would like to ask these guys a question about maybe some hurdles they had in trying to get this movie launched, or trying to get this movie shot, or anything that they learned about Don Meyer in the process, feel free to join us tonight. Again, the number is 737-7767. We got to take our first break. We will come back and discuss much, much more of My Many Sons coming up here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.